Why should anybody care about the concept of Khalistan? Why should any Sikh even care about Khalistan? How many Sikhs in the diaspora would give up their comfortable lives in the West and return to Khalistan when it's established? Well, these are questions I hear every now and again. Even a few Sikhs I've spoken to are relatively indifferent when I ask them about Khalistan. So why the indifference? Well, that last question is easy to answer, and the answer isn't actually exclusive to Sikhs. It's applicable to all of us from all communities. In our day-to-day lives, we have many more important things to worry about. We're living in an age of exhaustion. We're all tired. And when people are tired, politics feels like a luxury we can't afford. It's easier to turn off the news, lower our heads and focus on the immediate. The roof over our heads, the food on the table, the rising cost of living, keeping our families safe. But today, I need to speak to those of you who have turned away, to those of you who feel that politics is a dirty word or a game for others to play. I'm speaking to those who, ironically, actually can make the difference. The indifferent. Those brave and courageous individuals who do spend their lives campaigning for Khalistan are literally risking their lives on a daily basis. Well, just ask the families of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, Avtar Singh Kandar, or ask the many campaigners served threat to life warnings from the Canadian, US and UK police. Ask Gurbatwant Singh Pannoon, well, the list goes on. But they are a minority fighting on the front line for your rights, and thank God for them. But the indifferent are massive in numbers, and it's these numbers that can actually bring about change if they can unite behind the movement. Now, we do know, given the option, clearly a very large percentage of Sikhs are behind the idea of Khalistan. Just look at the massive turnouts for the referendum. We do know this is reflected across Punjab, despite what the Indian media try to hide. Amritpal Singh, Sarabjit Singh, both elected last year to the Indian Parliament on a pro-Khalistan campaign ticket, achieved record-level majorities in their constituencies, so the support is clearly there in Punjab. But it's those who are indifferent, who don't care one way or the other, that I particularly appeal to. And again, particularly to those few in India who have managed to bypass the state censorship to watch this message, bringing you the truth that the Indian government are trying so hard to hide. Firstly, an appeal to the indifferent across the diaspora. Why should you care? Simply because not to care is a betrayal of both your religion and your heritage. I mean, why should you listen to a white guy, a non-Sikh, preaching this idea to you? Well, because in fact it actually carries more weight. I came to be a passionate supporter of Khalistan because, as an outsider with no loyalties other than a deep lover of Indian culture, when objectively viewing the facts, I recognised the goodness Khalistan can bring to the world. I recognised it as the sovereign embodiment of all that I've come to love about the Sikh people. The kindness of Sikh philanthropy, whether it's langar or the inherent selflessness of seva. The simple, basic human principles that should underpin a good and decent society that arguably we're losing to some degree in the West. I recognised its basic democratic principles, absent in present-day India. I recognise that Khalistan will be founded on the core moral principles of Sikhi. Even as a non-Sikh, I recognise those same principles that reflect simple, basic human morality and goodness. But equally importantly, that reflect freedom of thought, speech, expression, the freedom to practice any religion without fear. And why wouldn't I support that? And so should all of us. Khalistan will represent a regional beacon of all that is good about democracy and freedom, all that is good in human equality and kindness, and we must all unite to help establish this idea. And to those in Punjab, and indeed across India, why should you care? We've had a few comments from people claiming to be Punjabi Sikhs and who say they feel safe and protected by Mother India. So why should they risk losing that? I have a simple answer for them that they need to listen to. There's a psychological phenomenon we usually reserve for hostages. It's called Stockholm Syndrome. It's a survival mechanism where the captive begins to identify with their captor, interpreting small acts of kindness not as manipulation but as affection. They begin to see their jailer not as the one holding the key but as the one protecting them from the world outside. Look at Punjab's relationship with the central government. Punjabis are being conditioned over generations to believe that without Delhi's protection, it would collapse. They've been taught to be grateful for the scraps of autonomy Delhi tosses out, forgetting that the loaf was Punjabi's to begin with. Ironically, Punjab is the breadbasket of India. It's so rich in resources, it feeds the rest of India. Punjabis have become comfortable. And comfort, my friends, is the most dangerous cage of all. And critics might say, but we have order, we have the rule of law. But do you? Whose law? And whose rule? We're seeing a weaponisation of the judicial system that is unprecedented in Indian history. The rule of law has become a shield for the RSS-controlled state and a sword against its people. When the law is used to bankrupt dissenters, to imprison voices of opposition on technicalities, and to systematically dismantle Sikhs' cultural identity, it's no longer law, it is oppression wearing a suit and tie. And it's a clever trick. If they silence Sikhs with tanks, the world watches, as indeed they did in 1984. But if they silence you with gavels and bureaucracy, the world, and India's own people, yawn and look away. I know why some Sikhs look away. I know that when they're fighting to keep the lights on, the concept of an independent republic feels abstract. It feels risky. You think, well, at least I'm safe right now. At least I have this job. At least I'm not in a cell. But you are in a cell. The walls are just invisible. The freedom to merely exist is not freedom. True freedom is the power to determine your own destiny, to steward your own resources, and to write laws that reflect Sikh values, not the mandates of a distant capital that views Punjab as a resource colony to be controlled and exploited. This independence Sikhs dream of is not a fantasy. It's a waiting reality. But it requires the one thing the Indian state fears most of all. It requires you to care. It requires the silent majority to stop being silent. It requires you to wake up and realise that the hand you're holding, the hand of the Indian state, is not pulling you up, it's holding you down. Imagine a future where Punjabi Labour builds Khalistan's infrastructure, where Punjabi taxes fund Khalistan's schools, where Khalistani youth don't have to leave their homeland to find dignity, safety or financial survival. That future is right there. It's just past the horizon of your indifference. So I ask the community across the diaspora, and indeed across India, don't just focus on surviving. You were meant to do more than just survive. You were destined to rule yourselves, just as in the time of the great Maharaja Ranjit Singh. That time will come again. Wake up. The door isn't locked. You just have to push it open together.